Sega VR.
Slick game preservation.
Slick game preservation. I'm gonna let you kick this one off too, Brett, since you're the one that
Okay.
presented it to me.
Yeah, so I was on Twitter the other day and I'm scrolling through and I found an article about an unreleased Sega Genesis VR headset.
Mm-hmm.
It never came out,
Mm-hmm.
but this guy from the Video Game History Foundation managed to get the source code of the console and like the game, one of the games, and was able to emulate it on a Vive headset.
Mm-hmm.
So even though we never actually got the hardware for this thing, you, the watcher, the viewer of this video, you can go and download it and play it on your VR headset today
You
and
can.
experience what Sega Genesis VR was.
Yeah. So they canceled their VR headset back in the day, right? And they said that their official reason for canceling it was, well, it's obviously questionable, but they claimed that the experience was so realistic and immersive that it posed a high risk of injury from players moving around while using it. Now, this is in the 90s, people, okay?
Yeah.
And then, however, a likely factor in the cancellation, and this comes from I think this is a direct quote from that Verge article talking about it. That a likely factor in the cancellation was feedback Sega received from the Stanford Research Institute, which warned of headaches, dizziness, and sickness. So, VR sickness,
Yeah.
particularly in younger users and children. Actually, in an episode of Retro Gamer Podcast, former CEO of Sega of America, Tom Kalinske, confirmed that these issues as a major factor in the decision to abandon the project.
First of all, Tom Kalinske is slick. He's in that Sega documentary that I told you about back in the day. So he's cool as fuck. And I think that I don't know the timing of this, but remember Nintendo had the Virtual Boy VR headset.
Right.
And I wonder if this was supposed to be like the competition to that, but the Virtual Boy never went anywhere really. They only released like 8 games or something like that, and nobody bought it.
Right.
So maybe this was like Sega's answer to that, but they stepped back as people realized that it wasn't successful.
Right. I mean, as we approached kind of the turn of the century, right, there was like this almost like rush to VR, right? Who was going to get to VR? Like the technology was, well, they thought the technology was almost there, like that it was going to be the next big thing. And it kind of fizzled out for a lot of those reasons we just talked about. VR sickness, access to it, making it affordable, yet also having the hardware so that, the user experience is good. Whereas now we've seen the last couple of years, we've seen this, battle with VR, and all these VR headsets come out, and now they are accessible. Now they do work. Now VR sickness still is there, but it's not as much of an issue with the higher fidelity screens. And PlayStation has a affordable headset. HTC has a more higher end headset, but you have Oculus kind of in the mid range, and you have all these other ways to access VR. So
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned the cost, the affordability of a VR headset in the 90s. So I actually did some research and I found out that the original Sega Genesis launched at $189 in the United States, and the MSRP of this Sega VR headset was going to be $200. So the headset itself was going to be more than the console, and I could see how that was an issue.
yeah, not by much though. But
Yeah, but are you really going to convince your parents when you're a kid in the 90s to buy a virtual reality headset that costs more than the actual console itself?
yeah, no, probably
You know.
not. But yeah,
So just wasn't, the price didn't make sense,
right.
you know? So as I said before, the Video Game History, what do they call it? I want to make sure I get their name right. The Video Game History Foundation managed to dig up the code for it and get it working on an emulator, working on a Vive headset. And then you have here, Josh, in our notes, the game was Nuclear Rush.
Yes.
So it's a 26-year-old CD-ROM
Yeah.
that had both the complete source code for Nuclear Rush, but also the tools for some other Genesis games that he'd worked on. That's interesting.
Yeah.
And you say here, the best part is you can actually download a ROM of Nuclear Rush and the software that they wrote to allow the game to play on modern headsets.
Right. So you can go. It's cool because you can basically go download this game that never came out for this headset that was never released, and kind of in a more modern sense with obviously a better VR headset, kind of experience maybe what Sega was aiming and hoping to do with it back in the day, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, and I did watch some gameplay of Nuclear Rush.
Yeah.
and it is like still old school. Like it doesn't look like modern VR at all, right?
Right.
This is like Genesis time, Sega Genesis, and Super Nintendo. So the graphics aren't anything to write home about. However, the game does have full 360 turning left and right and up and down motion in a virtual world, which is really cool. I was saying to you as I was watching it, I was like, this game looks pretty basic. It was like a game where you're like either in like a tank or like a flying ship. I couldn't tell what it was, but I was like, this would be cool if it had like a skin on it, like a Star Wars skin or something. Like they could have like sold this tech demo as a Star Wars licensed game or something and made a shitload of money off of it.
Yeah.
So
It's interesting too to look at and draw comparisons between some of these games that Sega was kind of messing with for their headset about being more so like little experiences and demos almost, and comparing that to now, whereas like at really the start a couple years ago of this new explosion of VR tech, like there was most of it was just experiences, right? Like these little demos, like even games that had just a very central design concept about how you were going to do it. And then there was like, a game skinned around whatever that is, whether they were trying things with motion, whether they're trying to counteract that screen door effect, whatever it might be. And now later on that the tech has kind of finally got there, you're starting to see larger full scale games like Half-Life Alyx, things like that. So
yeah, you're right. It is cool to compare. And if you think about it, they had like the formula right for how you make a game like that. You know what I mean? How to make a VR game, especially back then. If people were getting sick, you don't want to have this long experience. You want it to be a quick little experience that get in and out. So
right, and something
cool. They almost had it.
Yeah, the tech wasn't quite there yet. And something you and I have both experienced, I think, is the more that you play VR, specifically both of our experiences with PSVR, the more you play it, the more used to the experience, I guess, if you will, the less sick you're likely to feel. Main issue being that your brain thinks that it's in motion, right? Because that's what it is, but your body is not physically moving. So therefore, you get basically sick from your body not following that motion that your brain is. Think about it similar to like getting dizzy, you know what I mean, or getting the spins.
Yeah,
it's
or
something like that.
Getting car sick or seasick,
Yeah, right. Exactly. So, anyway, you get used to it, basically.
Yeah.
Thanks for checking out this video. Did you know it's actually part of a larger podcast called Hapticast? Check out our latest episode by clicking somewhere around my head, and make sure you like, comment, and subscribe.